welcome back. We're on to our next lesson in Chapter 2 about insects and spiders. We're going to be studying pages 38 and 39, and we're going to be talking about the life cycle of an insect. Before we get into our lesson, I want to do a little review about the parts of an insect. I drew on here a very, very large bee, okay? And maybe as we go through this, you can name them out loud at home. All right, so we're going to go from the top to the bottom. At the top here, what is the first body section of an insect? If you said the head, that is correct. And with all insects, they're going to have 3 body sections. So the top one is the head. Now, some things that are going to be on the head, if you can guess it, these long things, they're called antennae. And they are used to collect information about the world around them. All right. Another thing that is on the head, and not all insects have this, but they have definitely eyes, but many of them are compound eyes. And a compound eyes, remember that they can see in many directions because there are many, many tiny little lenses on one eye. For example, a housefly would be an example of someone that had, or an insect that had a compound eye. So antenna and eyes. And you can't see it on here on our insect on the board, but they would also, this is where their mouth parts would be. Okay, so their mouth. All right, so on to number 2, the middle section. Can you guess what that is? Can you remember what we studied? Now, if you said the thorax, that would be correct. Okay, the thorax is in the middle. It's the middle section. And on the thorax, they would have 6 legs, and it would have, this is where their wings would be. But not all insects have wings. Some have just 1 pair of wings. Others have 2, even more pairs of wings, but some insects do not have any wings at all. This particular insect, yes, has 1 pair of wings. Now, one word that we need to remember when we're talking about their legs is that they're jointed. Okay? Jointed legs. All right, so that is the thorax. Then we have the last part. Can you remember what the last part, this largest part is? And if you said abdomen, that would be correct. Okay. So the abdomen is the lower section of an insect, and in the abdomen, this is where they digest food. Just like you digest food in your stomach for energy, this is where an insect would digest their food. I apologize for the bell. Again. And also, not all insects, but some insects might protect themselves with a stinger. For instance, this insect. And this is where their stinger would be located on their abdomen. All right, so the 3 main body sections of an insect are head, thorax, and abdomen. Let's say it one more time together with me. Head, thorax, abdomen. Okay? All right, so let's get on to our pages and the life cycle. And this is how an insect would grow from a tiny little egg all the way to an adult. From beginning to the end, to its death, that is called the life cycle. And we're going to see that there are different stages for different insects. There are 2 stages, or 2 different ways an insect will grow from an egg all the way to an adult. And it's a process called metamorphosis. Okay, can we say that word? That's a big word, metamorphosis. Now, metamorphosis, it means change in form. Okay, so that's a word that I would like you to remember. Metamorphosis, this is in your book. Okay, and it means change in form. Meaning its body changes completely. All right. So there are 2 kinds of metamorphosis. We have incomplete with an IN at the beginning. And then what we have is called complete. Incomplete, complete. Incomplete has 3 stages or 3 sections of its life. Complete metamorphosis has 4 stages or 4 steps of its life. So let's go ahead and read about this, and then I will show you some pictures to help you better understand this. Page 38, please. When a turtle hatches, it looks much like an adult turtle. It does not change its form to become an adult turtle. It does not grow new body parts later. It just gets bigger and stronger. That's similar to you when you were a baby. You had all of the parts of an adult, but over time you get taller and taller and taller, and your muscles get bigger and bigger and bigger, and so do your bones. But with an insect, they grow just a little differently. However, most insects do not look like an adult insect when they hatch from their eggs or when they open from their eggs. Perhaps you have lifted a rock in your yard or outside and have seen white worm-like grubs. So these things move around and they look like worms, but they're not worms. Squirming underneath. Although they do not look like it, grubs are immature or young insects. Although they do not, an insect becomes an adult through one of the 2 kinds of metamorphosis. Metamorphosis is a process of change in the form or its shape of an animal as it grows. Incomplete metamorphosis. And remember, incomplete, 3 stages, and we'll see the differences between these 2. Some insects go through this 3 stages of incomplete metamorphosis. Incomplete metamorphosis begins with the egg stage. From an egg, the egg hatches into a nymph. The nymph is an immature insect. It looks much like an adult insect, but its wings do not work. Insects such as dragonflies and grasshoppers develop or grow through incomplete metamorphosis. The nymph molts many times as it grows, and each time it molts, its wings develop or grow a little bit more. After it molts for the last time, the insect is an adult with fully developed wings. An adult female lays eggs, and the cycle begins all over again. Now I have a picture for you of incomplete metamorphosis. Now it looks like there are more than 3 stages on this picture. But remember, it's 3 main stages, and I'll explain it to you. Okay, so we have a picture of a grasshopper. And here, this yellow thing that looks like maybe a pill or medicine, this is a fertilized egg, and an egg that is ready to hatch, ready to open up, and out comes a little grasshopper. Now you'll see, this is what will come out of that egg, and it looks very similar to the last one, the adult, but it's really, really tiny. They have all the parts of the adult insect, but it's not strong enough to do what an adult does. For here, and this stage, and here, and here, and here, this is all different nymph stages. Now, each time this nymph grows, the inside of it grows, but the outside doesn't grow. Can you remember what that word for the outside shell for an insect? Now, if you guessed exoskeleton, that's correct. Now, we talked about this before. An exoskeleton doesn't grow. Okay, remember, it's its outside skeleton. Your skeleton grows, but an insect skeleton does not. So when its muscles get too big on the inside, it has to take it off, like taking off a coat, and then it will grow a new one. So each time it gets bigger, it molts, M-O-L-T, molts, or taking off its exoskeleton, and then it will grow a new one. And it will continue and continue and continue to grow until finally it will molt one more time and become an adult insect. And at this point, this is where their wings are strong enough to fly around and to be used. But in these earlier stages, these are all nymphs. Their wings are not strong enough to be used. Okay, so this is incomplete metamorphosis. We have egg, it hatches to a nymph, and this nymph grows into these different stages of nymph, and then finally it will molt one more time into an adult. Egg, nymph, adult. Okay? So let's move on to complete metamorphosis. Complete metamorphosis. Insects such as bees, butterflies, and beetles go through 4 stages of complete metamorphosis. Like incomplete metamorphosis, the first stage is an egg. From an egg, a larva hatches. Now, a larva is that worm-like grub. It looks like a worm, but it's not a worm. It's actually a very, very tiny insect, and it'll do some big changes later on. It looks more worm-like. The grubs under the rock in your yard are probably the larva or larvae of a beetle. Caterpillars are another kind of larvae. Larvae spend most of their time eating. They must eat a lot of food before they enter the next stage. The stage of growth between the larvae and the adult is the pupa. The pupal stage is in the pupal stage, the insect makes a big change. The larvae covers itself with a chrysalis or a cocoon, and we'll talk about the differences in just a moment. It does not eat in this stage. It is busy growing and its separate body sections and wings. Finally, the insect comes out of its covering as an adult. When an adult female lays eggs, the cycle begins all over again. Okay, so we have complete metamorphosis, and the first one we talked about, there are only 3 stages, but complete has 4 stages. Both of them begin with a tiny egg. Let me show you a picture here of a butterfly and the stages it goes through. Now, with both the grasshopper and the insect, I'm going to link a video clip to show you kind of a live version of what these 2 insects go through as it goes through its metamorphosis stages. All right, so here, just like in incomplete, it goes through, the female lays an egg. That egg will hatch into a larvae. Now, this larvae, which we know as a caterpillar, this caterpillar, it eats and eats and eats and eats and eats and eats and eats. Okay, and it doesn't stop eating. And it will do this for about 2 weeks until finally it is ready to go into the pupa stage here. And so it will hang upside down and it will attach itself with some silk to a branch. And it will form itself into kind of a J shape. Well, then it will begin to shed its skin or lose its skin. And then it will make this hard outside covering to protect itself. And the inside of it, it's kind of weird. It kind of turns into kind of like a jelly kind of solution. I'm not sure what to call it. But that is the beginnings of what this will look like. Okay? And inside this chrysalis, it will start to form the different body sections, the head, the thorax, and the abdomen, and also develop the wings. Then later, when it's ready, it will come out of its chrysalis, and it'll take some time for its wings to expand and fill with fluid. You can see that its abdomen is really full. That is full of fluid, and it will push that fluid into its wings and cause its wings to expand or to get bigger. And then when it's ready, then it will fly away as an adult to go drink nectar from a flower. Now, if it's a female butterfly, it will begin to lay eggs, and the cycle starts all over again. Now, it looks like there's many stages, but it actually is just 4 main stages. So we have the egg, larvae, the pupa stage, and that's those 3 here, pupa, adult. Let's say it one more time. Egg, larva, pupa, adult. Okay? Now, I said I would talk to you a little bit about the differences between a cocoon and a chrysalis. Now, if you look at your activity manual, page 30, and let me grab my activity manual very quickly. You look at your activity manual on page 30 and 31. It gives you it talks about the differences between a moth and a butterfly. And one of the main differences is when it goes into its pupa stage, a butterfly its outer covering is called a chrysalis, and a moth, it's called a cocoon. All right. Some of them think that all of them are called cocoons, but it's not. The one around a butterfly is called a chrysalis, and the one that around a moth is called a cocoon. So if you look on page 30 in your activity manual, it tells you all the information you'll need to know about the differences between a butterfly and a moth. They both go through a complete metamorphosis, meaning the 4 stages, but they're different. They're different kinds of insects. So something that you can work on to help you to understand is Activity Manual 29, 30, and 31. You can also answer the 2 questions in your student book on page 39. I hope you have a great evening, and we'll see you next time.